Hey guys, welcome back to the Finding Something Real podcast. As you can see, Janelle is not here today, so we're taking over. We're two of the co-hosts this season. My name's Anna.
My name is Frankie.
And we're just going to be doing a little recap of the season. We're going to talk about some of our favorite episodes. And yeah, we're just going to go from there. So, do you have anything to add?
No, I love like how different everything was this season, like the different speakers and stuff that we got like from the beginning, and then all the topics were really different. So I'm excited.
We have a lot to discuss.
Yes.
So we each kind of chose like our 5 top episodes. I was just telling Frankie that the one that came out today is an episode that we did with Lydia Dykes, and she hasn't listened to it because it just came out today, but it's one of my favorite ones. So I'm changing one of mine to have that one be on my top 5. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to start with yours or like some of yours?
Sure.
Highlights.
One of the main ones that stuck out to me was the episode we did with Sandra Greamy, and we got to like meet up with in person during our like week that we were all together, and she did an event with us at the theater where she got to like talk about like things in apologetics and answers people's questions and everything, and that was super fun to listen to her podcast episode and then also meet her in person and kind of see her like in action. But I don't know, her like story and also the way that she handles people's questions was like my favorite thing about her episode and everything. Just like how she talks about really difficult topics like, you know, human suffering and like those are the kind of questions that you'd think you could have like almost no answers to.
Yeah.
And that was like the way that she talks about both like the empathetic side and then also like the reason side. It's just like so well balanced. So that was definitely my biggest highlight from her.
Yeah.
Her podcast episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was part of the recording when she was on the podcast, and one of like my first impressions of her is how there's just like such a grace in the way that she speaks. Like she's so wise and so like intelligent, but at the same time she's like such a human about the questions that like are being asked, and she just like meets you in that question. Like I think one of the things also that we didn't talk about this season, but I think she alluded to a little bit, and I wish we could have gone a little bit more into depth about this because I know there's so many people that have experienced it, but she talked about her own experience with like sexual abuse and like how she dealt with that, and like I think like the statistics for that, it's like 1 in every 3 girls like have experienced that. So I like how she was not afraid to go there and she was willing to be vulnerable in that part of her story. And I think it also broke the shell for like other girls that are like, oh, I'm scared to talk about that, or like, oh, you know, like that happened to me, but I don't know how to talk about it or how to bring it up. Yeah. Like I like how like open she is about that, and I know if we kept asking more, she probably would be even more open about it. But that was one of my first impressions, and something that I really respected from her. And I will also say from when she was here at the event, I think everybody was like really blown away by the way that she could answer all the apologetic questions. But I think everybody, like without a doubt, this was like my biggest takeaway from that night, was there was a question from the audience from an older man. He was like maybe in his 70s, I would say. Like he's an older man. Janelle was the one that invited him, and I think from what I know, he's definitely not a believer, has really big doubts and really big questions. You can tell a little bit of like a hostility towards God, and yeah, you could just see just like the wrestle with faith that he was dealing with. So even the fact that he was at the event was like really cool in itself, that he got to hear really good arguments for the Christian faith. But he asked a question regarding, do you know the story that he was talking about?
I think Janelle explained it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard of it.
Was it local? Because I think I'd heard of it a little bit.
I don't know if it was local.
Okay. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure if it was local. Somebody please check my facts. But I think I'd heard about it when it was happening, and I don't know if I saw it on the news or if somebody local. That's where I
Yeah.
can't remember. You guys can do your research. But it was basically he described a something that had happened, and this was a real story, where a mom went up. Did she go on vacation or did she like just leave?
I think she had like some kind of, didn't she have like some sort of like mental struggles?
Yeah.
And she ended up leaving, just like with no
warning or anything.
Notice to anybody else.
Yeah.
I think is what happened. I don't know if it was a vacation. I think she just left.
Okay. Well, the one that I heard. Well, anyways, we're just gonna leave that there.
Check the story.
Yeah. The mom ended up leaving for some reason that we do not know. And left a baby, less than a year old, right?
Yeah,
a couple months,
like a baby,
a baby, like not, I don't, like a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And the baby ended up passing away because of malnutrition and dehydration and all the things. And basically what he was trying to get at with the question he was asking is like, how could a good God allow that to happen? And that was honestly like a really good question, a really tough question. Mm-hmm. That like kind of goes back to like regarding suffering. Like everybody has that to some extent in their lives, and there's just really no like clear answer.
Yeah.
At least on this side of eternity, mm-hmm. on like why that allowed. I mean, we can like talk about free will and all those things, but like it's still hard, and it's still just like you're left with the painful reality of like the sting of it. But and you could just like, I was seeing his face, like the way that he was sharing it, and just you could just see how like almost personal it was to him. I don't know if he knew the people, or I don't know why he found it so like close to his heart that he resonated so much with it, but you could just see just like the anger and a little bit of like the, I don't know, just like hatred, mm-hmm. also like with that question. But I was so blown away with Xandra, the way that she answered that question. Yeah. Like she answered it for a long time, and it wasn't just like a bunch of nothing. Like everything she said was so like, there is like a well of like just wisdom and insight. And to be honest, I cannot remember what she said. It's recorded, so it's out there, but I just remember just like the way that how empathetic she was, and how just how gracious she was towards that man. And then it was really cool, like, because I was watching this happen like from stage, and I could just see like the reaction on his face. And the more I think she talked, it felt like 10 minutes. It felt like a long time.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing his face throughout the whole thing. And one of the things that was probably my favorite thing from that night was just seeing how his face softened. Like he started off like so high and kind of like angry. Like you could just see he was like frowning and like just mad.
Yeah.
And then like slowly as she kept answering, and as she like was wrapping up, you could just see his face kind of like soften a little bit, and find a little bit more rest in her answers. Obviously, I don't think he still probably has like so many questions. That was probably just like what started the conversation, but I think it was really cool to see just how God used Xandra in that way, mm-hmm. to answer something that he looked like he had for probably years. I'm not even kidding. It looked like he brought like a piece of paper, and he was like prepared to give his defense. Yeah. Like he was so ready. And I mean, I can't speak because I don't know him, but I could see from the way that he approached his question that he's been through a lot, and there's probably a woundedness in his heart that he blames on God, and that's hard. But I am so excited to see how God is going to keep pursuing him, because I feel like that was just like a seed planted, and the more that he keeps digging, I think it'll be really exciting to see what God will do with that.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, after the event was over, it was really cool because Xandra came down, and she was like on a mission. Like she didn't kind of care about like anybody else. She came right up to that guy, and they talked for like the rest of the night pretty much. Like I came in and out a couple times, and they were still talking, and then she came out to get him a Bible, and encouraged him to read the Bible. And it was just like, it was like, she is like, when you hear about apologetics or like people that practice apologetics, I think there's a stigma of like they're being really stoic or really I don't know, like just like they, I don't know, like not harsh, or just like they kind of kill you with just like the intellect that they have and just like you know. But that is not Xandra at all. Like she is the real deal. Like when we say that, like we really mean it, and we've seen it firsthand. So I think that like every girl that was there, we were just like blown away by how authentic and how real she is.
Yeah, it was amazing to see like the way, like, because she has this background in apologetics, and she does know like the like smart answers, like all of that
the
stuff.
scientifics.
But she approaches it in such a like tender way that like sometimes people don't want like the like list of reasons or like the Bible verse that like solves the problem. And so that was really cool to see like the way she handled it, and also that she handled it on stage and off stage, like took the time to go and continue to like pursue to see if he had any more questions or like all of that. So that was amazing. And it just made like, once I went back and like listened to her episode again, like you can see how God used her testimony too to like just like give her something that's like very relatable to other people, and especially to him, because of like if he had anything connected to it or like any personal experience that made that like a little bit harder to deal with than most people, she also had that like same question, which is really cool. It shows how powerful like testimonies can be. So.
And just like also the Janelle has talked about this a lot this season, just like the power of presence. Like she was so present throughout the whole thing. And I think that's really important, especially when you're trying to give a defense for the faith, because I think sometimes we can get so locked in on like, just like as soon as like if you're talking, we're like going on opposite, like, you know, I have an opinion, you have an opinion, I'm like getting ready to give a defense for what you said, like you're like not there, you're like you're like already planning what you're gonna say, but she was so present the entire time, which I really admire. So yeah, that was definitely a highlight. And she's like, I think a friend to the ministry, like she's somebody that we're just gonna keep getting back and again and again, so that's really exciting. Yeah, okay, what are some of the other ones? I'm trying to think. What are some of your other ones?
I had my list and
one that comes to mind.
One that comes to mind.
I need to think of
my this one kind of okay. Tanya Painter.
Oh yeah.
I just recently listened to it again because she's or it's Dr. Tanya Painter. Yes. She's in
Spokane.
Yeah, she's
close pretty
by.
She's really close by.
She's in, correct me, it's like physiology or something.
She's like she does like holistic stuff.
Holistic,
like where body, soul, and spirit. Yeah, that was her episode.
Yes. Yeah. So I found that one really interesting because I think it just shows like I've kind of been interested in like the like, are we like body and soul, or are we like body, soul, and spirit, and like how does that work? Because there are like certain practices that like teach, oh, like your body doesn't matter, or like, you know, like we should pay more attention to the body than the spirit, or this more attention to the spirit and soul than the body. And I think it's just really cool how like you can see that aspect of like science and like science and theology, I guess, coming together. And she talked about like, which I thought was like a really cool question, how they asked about, I don't remember who it was that asked, but it was about like, do certain parts of the body like correlate to different like,
oh, I asked that.
Was that you?
That was me, because I've been so fascinated by that too, because we're gonna put like, we're gonna
talk about Chinese medicine, and how that's kind of a thing. I've watched so many things on Chinese medicine, so as soon as that was asked, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm so interested.
I don't know a lot, but I'm really interested because I've just heard so many stories of people in my life, but then also just like testimonies from people where like biblical things of like, especially unforgiveness or walking through that, like as believers we're called to forgive those who have like wronged us, and it's really interesting how that can be like a sin maybe that Christians don't take as seriously, because they try to do like, they try to take care of everything else, but then when it comes to forgiveness, that can be more of a hidden one, because it's not like exterior necessarily, like you can hide it pretty well, like for years, pretty much your whole life, and you would never know. But I have heard some testimonies of like people that practice either are in medicine or do like ministries with that, like how as soon as they forgave somebody, like their sickness got immediately better, or
Yeah.
there's like a direct effect to like the unforgiveness and either a disease or like pain in their body. I don't know, you know,
Yeah.
just like it's
Something
like
like
so that's why I asked that question,
yeah.
because I'm like, is there a specific part in the body that unforgiveness gets stored in, or is it different to everybody else? There's just like, and that just
Yeah.
opens like more questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
No, that was super interesting
Mhm.
because I've definitely heard like, I mean, if you think about it, like God created body
Mhm.
and soul
Mhm.
and spirit, and so
Mhm.
it's like you're not one or the other,
Yeah.
and so it makes so much sense that they'd be so interconnected
Yes.
that like they would affect each other, or like
Uh-huh.
if you're struggling with something mentally, like
Mhm.
sometimes it like comes through in like your physical health.
Yeah.
But I've never heard like necessarily like some like a Christian or like she I think she's a theologian is how you'd say, or
Mhm. Mhm.
yeah, she has like that aspect and like the super scientific like physical health side.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's like it's cool that she brought that up, and then she also brought up the um how like there's still spiritual warfare,
Yeah.
and how that can also impact like physical health as well,
Yeah.
which I've always thought about spiritual warfare as being more like emotional,
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just kind of like relational,
Yeah.
or anything like that, or like even like more worldwide like
Mhm.
politics, or
Mhm.
like anything like that, but like it does make sense that that would show up physically as well,
Yeah.
because that is a way to like impair somebody,
Yes.
to like kind of put like their life out of balance.
Mhm.
So I thought that was really interesting because I've never thought about it. And
Yeah.
also she talked about how like the physical, like it could be some sort of spiritual warfare,
Mhm.
but it's also super discouraging to just
Mhm.
attribute all physical like
Yes.
problems to spiritual warfare, because
Yeah.
then if you don't have like enough faith
Yeah.
to like get rid of it,
Yeah.
that can be really hard for
Yeah.
somebody's like trust, or
Mhm.
like their faith in God,
Yeah.
if it doesn't like heal it. Like there
Yep.
is true physical
Mhm.
ailment, and then there is like spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting because it's like, okay, like how do you know
Yeah.
like which one's which, and like
Yes.
yeah, so that was
I know it's
super
been.
interesting.
I think something that was really cool about this season, because it's not just really one episode. It was kind of scattered around like all of them, at least
Yeah.
a little bit. Just the question of suffering.
Mhm.
I think that's a big part of that is because of Janine, and
Yeah.
like one of our co-hosts, like we shared her story on here, and she just struggled for like I think 13 years now of like chronic illness and chronic pain, and she lives in that tension like every day, like what like, and the thing that's really hard about her story is that like they've tried both, like they've gone the medical route and they've literally tried everything.
Mhm.
I can name like all of the things that they've done, and that has left them really discouraged. And then they've also done like they believe in God and they believe in like the supernatural, and like they believe in deliverance, they believe in all that stuff, and they've gone that route too. And they've in that route I think they've experienced more hope, but in a way when things seem to be getting worse, it's almost like more discouraging because it like kind of brings them high and then immediately drops them down. So it's like I don't know, there's like a tension in both because I've tried both. um, but one of my favorite ones, and it kind of like I think transitions into this one, but it was one with
Alan Crostick.
Yes, Alan Crostick. He talks about him getting like miraculously healed um, at I think it was like what's it called? If I remember correctly, this was at like a service or something like that, like where they prayed for him and he actually like did get healed. But what's really interesting about his story is that he was healed for I don't know how many years, but he was healed. Like there's like he talks about just the story of like how he felt heat in the place where like the sickness was or whatever, and like he knows that God healed him and that um he got better. But I think I don't know how many years after, like it came back, or he started seeing, or he got maybe another diagnosis, and this one I think was worse than his original one, and so basically the kind of the theme of that podcast was what happens when the suffering kind of comes back, or like does that take away from the healing that had already happened, or like because then you're left again with like so much questions like, God, did you like, why did you heal me for you to bring it back like worse than it was before?
Right.
And it just kind of like unravels like more questions. And I think I really liked how he didn't like disregard like the experience that he experienced, like getting healed, because I think sometimes, and it was definitely more in a charismatic place, and so I feel like with charismatic places it can be like kind of a hit or miss, where either people make it up to be this like big thing that never happened,
Right.
or like it's genuine, but then because people have had bad experiences they just disregard the whole experience because they're like nothing good can come from that, you know.
Right.
So I like that he didn't do that, and he like, no, like that was real, like God really did heal me, and like he shared his experience on that. But then he also shared like, I'm really struggling right now, like the just the reality of like it coming back and how to wrestle with God in that. But there was something that he said that really stuck out to me, and I'm gonna look it up because it was just so good. But do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, the in the episode of Tanya Painter, she mentioned like there's so many like cases, obviously in the Gospels, that have like miraculous healings, and like people who like couldn't walk and now they can walk, or blind and like now they can see and they do get healed. But then there was also the example of Paul, who did say that he had a thorn in his side, and I feel like that always gets like kind of lost in my mind when I think about Paul's story of how he was like encountered personally by Jesus and ended up like becoming a Christian, spending his whole life fighting for Jesus, and still suffered with some sort of thorn in his side, like whatever that might have been. But it was interesting that she brought that up, because like you can't just call like your faith or a relationship with God like a miracle pill for your physical suffering. It's not necessarily going to get rid of it, because God still speaks through people's suffering. And so
sometimes more,
like when I've heard like Janelle talk about like Janine's story and how she's so like radiant, and it just shows through both her testimony and her like continual story. That
speaks like more, even though the suffering is so real and it's so present in their lives. I don't think they'll ever realize how much of a like ministry that is in itself. Like just when people look at you, like there's just like a radiance too, like, and I've seen that with Janine like since day one. Like there's, I don't think I've ever seen anybody like her, just like radiating, having God, like it's just like God in her face, like just all over.
Yeah. And I think it's like, it's really cool when you see people who are leaning on God in that suffering, and it's almost like, especially with Janine, like it's not necessarily her considering her suffering as like the main part of her story, but she considers like God to be that main part, and then like God is speaking through the suffering, which is like it takes the suffering off of it, the like the pedestal of the story, and it like I think that's like where the radiance comes from, is it's like, how are you taking that suffering off the like name of your story, or like the first thing you'd say, is really cool.
That's good.
Yeah,
I found the quote that I was looking for from Alan, but he was talking about the kingdom and how it's an upside down kingdom, and how he used an analogy where he was saying like this in this world, like the kingdom of this world, you're defined by your finest moment, like when you like get to a certain point in your career, or like you get married, like all these milestones that like are human success. But he was talking about the upside down kingdom, which is like God's kingdom, and how your finest moment there is like kind of the complete opposite. Like angels and obviously God, like they don't see things the way that we see them, in how like what they kind of like I don't know, rank believers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the same things that we would rank us in. And he was basically saying, like, your finest hour is when will you, like, in the suffering, will you still choose to honor God? And like that is your finest hour, and that just put things into perspective so much, because that really kind of also takes off um how do you say, the it kind of puts it on all of us. Like, it's not just like people that have like chronic suffering. Like, it's like you and I, like, will we still honor him like in our lowest moments and stuff like that? And that was just like so eye-opening, because I'm like, that is really hard in our flesh and in our humanness, but at the same time, that is what heaven is like rejoicing over. They're like, keep going, yeah, like, and that's what they're like, they will honor you when you get to heaven. And I'm like, that is such a good perspective to have.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Okay, we're gonna do like one more maybe, and then we're gonna call it good for this one.
Sounds good.
Okay, do you want, hold on, I mean, we've shared a couple.
Do you want to pick one of?
I'll pick one of mine.
Okay,
I'll do the one that we did with Alicia Wood, and she did two, and I think the co-hosts that were in that one, it was Caitlin and Sarah. And what was really cool, something that we talked about briefly, was that in the retreat, when the other co-hosts were here, we were talking about some highlights, or like some of our favorite episodes, and Sarah was there for pretty much all of them. There's only a handful she missed, but what was cool about the episode with Alicia Wood is that because Sarah, if you are not familiar with her story, she is a Christian, but when she first came to the podcast, she was really wrestling with faith and like really looking for like solid arguments for the Christian faith. Even though she believed it, she just like, I think, was still wrestling with how much to like commit to it in that sense. And it's been really cool to see her change from like the very beginning to now. Like, she is so confident in her faith, and we've talked about this. I feel like she is one day gonna be an apologist. Like, she's just like so made for that. And I could totally see her being like our generation of like Xander Grimley, like 100%. But what was cool about the episode with Alicia Wood is that Sarah said that usually she would be kind of right in the middle, with leaning with what the apologist said, or like what Caitlin was, she's an atheist, and she was the only non-believer this season. But what was cool about this episode is that Sarah said that this episode was like her pivot, where she leaned more with what Alicia was saying than like the arguments that Caitlin was saying. And I think that was a huge marker in Sarah's faith, because that's where she realized, she's like, oh, like my faith is starting to become like my own, and like way more strong. You know?
Yeah. It was cool to hear also on Sandra Green's episode when Sarah talked about how like she's still like in that episode at that spot where she's like, I'm not sure like if I can like confidently say that like the science and like my faith can like exist at the same time. And Xandra responded by saying like, that is such a good spot to be in. It's not like something you should be afraid of or like shameful about, that like you have questions, you have doubts about like whether or not you can actually like fully believe like in your heart and mind that those things can coexist. And so it's cool that, especially like through all the episodes, to hear Sarah's questions, because they're so like specific to her questions, her doubts, and things that she really wants to know about, which is just like like as soon as Xandra said like it's such a good spot to be in, like she got to the spot that she could have been, that she was in with Alicia, because she took the time to ask herself what those questions were, and to get answers. And I think it's like the honesty of it is really cool too, because then once she got to Alicia, she was able to fully say like, oh, like I'm being honest with myself, and I do side more with what Alicia is saying. So that was, it's so cool to watch, like, the progression.
and I think that also like really highlights just like the importance of wrestling with your faith. Like I think when there's like a really misconception in, I think, Christianity in general, that it's just like it's not healthy to think this way, but like that you can't doubt or you can't like question your faith, because then where's your faith at, you know?
Yeah.
Like that, I think that is like that is just so not true, because it's in the wrestling where you find like you make it your own. And I think, and God loves the wrestle. Like he loves and he wants you to be in the wrestle with him. I think the only thing that he just wants is to be a part of it. Like just like for you to invite him in, and that's what Sarah was doing.
Yeah.
So which is really cool. I think that that just highlights how like even believers, like no matter where you are in faith, even if you're following God or you're not, like you can still be wrestling with like your faith.
Yeah.
And but the important thing is just like keep inviting God in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like interesting to see like all these like apologists come on and like they don't necessarily want to just prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Like they like to hear the questions because they come from such a like place that would probably still exist even if you weren't choosing to follow Christianity and you
like
weren't choosing Jesus. Like you'd still think those questions.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there is an ultimate truth. Like there's not like your truth, my truth. Like there's the truth, and that's Jesus. But like, and that's what I really also like about the apologists is that like they have the education and like the facts to back up that this is true. Like, but that's not going to make you want to follow Christ if you don't like meet them where they're at. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, that's good. Okay, I think that's pretty good for our first one.
Yeah.
We'll do another one here soon. And we're going to talk about like the part 2 of our reflections. But yeah, we really enjoyed this season. It's been like a really like broad range of topics, but topics that like I think a lot of people really wrestle with and really relate to, even if you can't relate to it on a personal sense. Like maybe you're not going through suffering or illness in your life, but maybe you know somebody that is. And also as believers, we're called to carry like each other's burdens, so like it's just good information to have in general. But yes, we will be back with more soon.
Yeah.
See you guys.